Have you ever felt like God has gone silent? Like your prayers are hitting a ceiling of brass? Most people think silence is rejection. But in the divine economy, silence is not absence, it is preparation. Before a builder installs a massive skyscraper, they must first dig a deep, dark, and empty hole. If you feel empty today, it's because your foundation is being dug for something monumental. There is a specific kind of silence that precedes a miracle. It is not the silence of abandonment. It is the silence of a conductor raising his baton before a symphony begins. If you are watching this, you might be in a season where it feels like the heavens have turned to brass. Your journals are full of unanswered questions. Your pillows are stained with why? But listen closely. In the realm of the Spirit, silence is a signal. It is the signature of a transition. When God is about to give you something that will redefine your generation, He first introduces you to the void. In theology, we speak of creation ex nihilo, creation out of nothing. For God to bring a new thing into your life, He often has to create a space of nothingness first. If your life is cluttered with good things, there is no room for the great thing. Before the big thing arrives, you will notice a strange phenomenon. Things that used to work no longer do. Relationships that were your anchors suddenly drift away. Strategies that brought you success now yield failure. The fire you once felt in your spirit feels like a flickering ember. This is the first sign. God is deconstructing your reliance on the horizontal, the world, to force your gaze toward the vertical, the divine. You are being unplugged from the world's power grid because the big thing requires a power source the world cannot provide. When God is about to give you something big, part 1, the divine silence and the dark night of the soul. Every great spiritual transition is preceded by a period of profound emptiness. In the physical world, we are taught that silence is a sign of inactivity or absence. But in the spiritual world, silence is a sign of intense preparation. If you feel as though God has gone silent, you are not being ignored, you are being insulated, you are in the divine waiting room. Before a master architect begins a massive construction project, he must first clear the land. He removes the old structures, the debris, and even the beautiful but unstable trees that currently occupy the space. The neighbors, it looks like destruction to the architect. It is the necessary precursor to creation. This is where you are right now. The silence you feel is the sound of the old being cleared away to make room for the new. The first sign that something big is coming is the loss of the familiar. You may notice that your grace for your current situation has run out. Things that you used to enjoy now feel hollow. Relationships that used to be supportive now feel draining. This is a spiritual stripping. God is intentionally detaching your heart from the things of the past because those things cannot survive where you are going. If you take old habits, old mindsets, or the wrong people into your big season, they will become weights that cause you trash. The pain you feel in this stage is not the pain of death, it is the pain of pruning. A vine must be pruned to bear more fruit, and the branches that are cut away are often the ones that were once healthy but are now in the way. After the stripping comes the wilderness. This is the place where your titles are taken away. In the world, we define ourselves by what we do, our jobs, our social status, our NK accounts. But in the silence of God, none of those things matter. Think of Moses, who spent 40 years in the desert after being a prince of Egypt. He had to lose the identity of a prince to find the identity of a deliverer. In the desert, you are forced to confront yourself. You are forced to ask, if I have no money, no title, and no applause, who am I? God keeps you in this state until your answer is, I am a child of God, and that is enough. The big thing requires a person who is not addicted to the praise of men. If you are addicted to the applause of people, you will be destroyed by their criticism. God uses the silence to kill your ego so that your spirit can lead. There is a biological necessity for darkness. If you take a seed and leave it on a table in the light, it will never grow. It will remain a hard, small, potential-filled pebble. For that seed to become a tree, it must be buried. It must be covered in dirt. It must experience the pressure of the earth and the air, be sense of light. When you are in your dark night of the soul, you feel buried. You feel like the weight of life is crushing you. But you must realize the difference between being buried and being planted. If you are being buried, it's the end. If you're being planted, it's just the beginning. The pressure you feel is what is forcing the outer shell of your old self to break so that the giant within you can emerge. The final purpose of the silence is calibration. We live in a world of constant noise, social media, opinions, news, and our own anxious thoughts. If God spoke to you in the middle of that noise, you might mistake his voice for your own or for the world's. By turning down the volume of the world, God is training your spiritual ears. He is teaching you to recognize his frequency. The big thing God is about to give you will require precise instructions. It will require you to make moves that may not make sense to anyone else. You must be so tuned into the divine voice that when he says move, you move, even if the whole world is shouting stay. If you are in this season of silence, do not try to force a door open. Do not try to resurrect what God has allowed to die. Sit in the silence, be still, trust that the void is being created specifically for the magnitude of what is coming next. The deeper the hole, the taller the building. The longer the silence, the louder the breakthrough. When the silence of part one begins to lift, you might expect immediate success. Instead, you often find yourself entering a crucible. A crucible is a vessel used to melt metals at extremely high temperatures to remove impurities. In this stage, God is not testing your faith as much as he is testing your capacity. He is asking one central question: can you carry the weight of what I am about to give you? In physics, every object has mass. The greater the mass, the more structural integrity is required to support it. The big thing God has for you has immense spiritual mass. If he gave it to you before your character was strengthened, the weight of the blessing would crush you. We see this often in people who achieve overnight success. Without a foundation of character, their wealth, fame, or power leads to their downfall. The trial of character is God's mercy. He is strengthening your spiritual bones so that when the blessing arrives, you can stand tall under the pressure. The first part of the crucible is the test of stewardship. Before God gives you a big territory, he watches how you manage your current small territory. If you are destined to lead a global organization, how do you treat the one employee you have now? If you are destined for financial abundance, how do you manage the few dollars in your pocket today? If you are destined for a massive platform, how do you use your voice when only 10 people are listening? Many people fail here because they're too focused on the big future to respect the small present. They despise the day of small beginnings. But in the eyes of the divine, your performance in the shadows determines your promotion into the light. The crucible burns away the spirit of entitlement and replaces it with the spirit of excellence. One of the most difficult trials in the crucible is watching others receive exactly what you have been praying for. You see your peers getting married, getting promoted, or seeing their visions take flight while you are still in the waiting room. This is a test of your heart's purity. Can you celebrate someone else's harvest while your field is still bare? If you cannot be happy for others, you are signaling that you believe God's resources are limited. God is looking for people who understand that another person's success is not their failure. He is purging the poison of envy from your soul because an envious heart cannot be trusted with a great assignment. In the crucible, there comes a moment of crushing. This is when your personal desires clash with the divine will. It is the Gethsemane moment where you must pray, not my will, but yours be done. God often asks you to lay down something you love to see if you love the giver more than the gift. He might ask you to give up a dream that you've held on to for years, or to move in a direction that makes no sense to your logic. This crushing isn't meant to destroy your happiness. It is meant to destroy your self-reliance. When you are finally broken of your own stubbornness, you become a vessel that can be filled with divine power. Why do you want the big thing? Is it for the glory of God? Or is it to prove your enemies wrong? Is it to serve humanity? Or is it to feed your own insecurity? The heat of the crucible brings these hidden motives to the surface. You will be forced to face the shadow side of your ambition. God will keep you in the fire until your motives are purified. He wants to ensure that when you reach the top of the mountain, you won't use your position to look down on others, but to lift them up. By the end of part 2, you are not the same person who entered the silence. You have been melted and reshaped. You are humbler, stronger, and more focused. You no longer seek the big thing to validate your worth. You seek it because you are ready to fulfill a purpose. You have passed the tests of stewardship, envy, and ego. You are now tempered like steel. You are ready for part 3. Alignment and synchronicity, where the invisible preparation begins to manifest as visible opportunity. The fire hasn't consumed you, it has prepared you. After the silence of the desert and the heat of the crucible, the atmosphere begins to shift. This is the transition from the internal work to the external manifestation. In this stage, you are no longer being stripped or tested, you are being positioned. You will notice that the universe seems to be conspiring in your favor. This is not luck, it is divine alignment. The first sign of part 3 is a change in your internal radio station. For a long time, you may have been tuned into the frequency of survival, anxiety, or longing. Suddenly, you find yourself tuned into the frequency of peace and expectation. You stop chasing and start attracting. You will find that your interests change. You may lose interest in entertainment that used to distract you and feel an insatiable hunger for knowledge or skills related to your big thing. This is God downloading the software you need for the hardware He is about to install. You are being mentally and spiritually synchronized with your destiny. When God is about to give you something big, He begins to move the people in your life like pieces on a chessboard. This is often the most mysterious part of the journey. You will experience random encounters with people who hold the keys to your next level. You will receive phone calls or emails from individuals you haven't spoken to in years. Doors that were slammed shut for a decade will suddenly swing open on their own. You will notice a phenomenon called synchronicity. You might think of a specific problem, and 5 minutes later, you see a book or hear a podcast that gives you the exact solution. This is God's way of showing you that the big thing is no longer just a dream in your heart. It is a reality in your immediate environment. A major part of alignment is the closing of good doors to make way for the best door. You might be offered a job or an opportunity that is okay, but not the big thing. In the past, you would have jumped at it out of fear, but now you feel a strange no in your spirit. God is testing your discernment. He wants to see if you will settle for Ishmael when He promised you Isaac. Alignment requires the courage to say no to the good so that you are available when the great arrives. If your hands are full of good things, you won't be able to grab the big thing when it passes by. In aviation, the most turbulence and restless chance occur right before an aircraft breaks the sound barrier. Similarly, right before your big thing arrives, you may experience a sudden surge of opposition. This is not the stripping of part 1. This is resistance. Small things will go wrong. People might lie about you. You might feel a sudden wave of self-doubt. Do not be discouraged. This resistance is proof that you are moving at a high velocity toward your target. The enemy of your soul does not fight people who are going nowhere. He fights those who are on the verge of a breakthrough. When the wind blows hardest, it means the destination is closest. The hallmark of part 3 is a supernatural calm. In part 1, the silence made you anxious. In part 3, the silence makes you confident. You know that God is working behind the scenes. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself to others or to prove your worth. You start to walk with the weight of someone who already knows the outcome. This is prophetic certainty. You aren't hoping for the big thing, you are expecting it. You have moved from I wish to I know. Your character is solid. Your motives are pure, and your ears are tuned. The stage is set. The final stage of the journey is the manifestation. This is the moment where the unseen becomes seen, and the big thing moves from the realm of faith into the realm of fact. However, this is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of a higher level of existence. Most people seek the arrival for the sake of comfort, but the great scholar understands that the arrival is for the sake of service. The arrival of the big thing often happens suddenly. After years of waiting, weeks of trials, and months of alignment, the door opens in a single day. You will find yourself standing in the middle of your answered prayer, looking around and realizing that the world you once dreamed of is now the world you live in. There is a specific feeling that accompanies this moment, a mixture of awe and responsibility. You realize that you didn't get here because of your own strength, but because you allowed yourself to be molded by the divine process. The big thing is finally here, whether it is a position of power, a financial breakthrough, a ministry, or a creative masterpiece. The greatest danger in part 4 is the temptation to relax and believe that you have made it. Many people, once they receive the blessing, stop doing the very things that got them there. They stop praying, they stop learning, and they stop being humble. The scholar knows that success is more dangerous than failure. Failure drives you to God. Success can drive you away from Him. You must realize that the big thing is not a destination where you sit down and rest. It is a platform from which you must work harder than ever before. If God has given you much, much will be required of you. When God gives you something big, it is never just for you, a lake that only receives water but never gives it away. Comes the Dead Sea. To keep your blessing healthy, you must become a conduit. If you have wealth, you are now a steward of God's treasury to help the poor. If you have influence, you are now a voice for the voiceless. If you have wisdom, you are now a teacher to the lost. Your big thing is a tool for the collective good. If you try to hoard it, it will rot in your hands. But if you use it to serve others, God will continue to pour through you, and your big thing will grow even bigger. You are no longer just a person, you are an ecosystem of grace. As your branches grow higher into the sky and more people see your success, your roots must grow deeper into the ground. The more public your life becomes, the more private your devotion must be. The height of a tree is limited by the depth of its roots. If your platform, the branches, exceeds your character, the roots, the first storm that comes will topple you. In part 4, you must return to the silence of part 1 daily. You must stay grounded in humility, remembering the desert and the crucible. Never forget the version of yourself that had nothing but a promise. Finally, the great scholar recognizes that every big thing on earth is temporary. Whether it is a kingdom, a business, or a reputation, it will eventually pass away. The true value of the big thing is not the thing itself, but who you became while you were waiting for it. The silence taught you patience. The crucible taught you strength. The alignment taught you faith. These internal qualities are the real treasures that you will carry into eternity. The external blessing is simply the case study God used to develop your soul. Now that you have received the big thing, you will eventually notice a new silence beginning. God will call you to a new level, a bigger vision, and a higher mountain. The process will start again, a new stripping, a new crucible, and a new alignment. Do not fear it. You are now a seasoned traveler. You know the patterns of the divine. You know that when God is about to give you something big, the darkness is just the shadow of his hand reaching down to pick you up. Walk into your blessing with your head bowed in gratitude and your hands open in service. Your season has arrived.